While betting on the election of the Pope was outlawed all the way back in 1591 by Pope Gregory XIV under penalty of excommunication, it has not stopped modern-day wagers from already rolling in ahead of the conclave, putting money on predicting the next pontiff. And get this, on Polymarket right now, $13 million in bets have already been placed. And these are where the odds stand right now. At the top, Cardinal Pietro Parolin of Italy with a 27% chance. The 70-year-old was Pope Francis's Secretary of State, essentially the Holy See's prime minister. Next, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle with 18%. The 67-year-old from the Philippines could be the first Asian pope. Also in the running, 76-year-old Cardinal Peter Turkson of Ghana with 12%. His selection would acknowledge another area where Catholicism is rapidly growing, Africa. Also at 12%, Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, the 69-year-old Italian, came up as a street priest in the image of Pope Francis, rising quickly to the rank of cardinal. Also from Italy, Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa, sitting at 10%. At 60 years old, he is on the younger side, but he's a favorite among Italians who have not had the papacy, by the way, since 1978. And finally, 72-year-old Cardinal Peter Erdo of Hungary at 8%. The scholar and educator is a leading contender among conservatives. Important to note the track record of these predictions, not so great. In the last conclave in 2013, Jorge Bergoglio of Argentina, who would later be known as Pope Francis, was 15th in the running. To get a better picture of the cardinals that could become the next pope, I'm joined by Father Anthony Sorgie of Immaculate Conception and Assumption of Our Lady in New York. And thank you so much for taking the time tonight, Father.
Oh, you're welcome, Natasha. You're welcome.
What do you make of these predictions? Who do you believe that Pope Francis would have wanted?
I'm laughing at the predictions because it sounds like things we do in New York about everything, from beverages on. It's very hard to say. You would think that the Secretary of State, someone like the Prime Minister of the Vatican, would have that edge that you're seeing there because he works so closely with Francis. But there are jobs that the Secretary of State does that wouldn't necessarily make him close in the family sense that we might think, you know, someone very close to the way and the style that he liked to be a priest. After all, Cardinal Parolin is a diplomat, a trained diplomat, and was in various parts of the world. He also is an insider. He knows how to run Vatican City, something that I think Pope Francis made very clear he had no interest in doing, you know, even from his decision not to live in the Apostolic Palace. But to talk about predictions, you know, I'm sure you've heard it already, that we have this expression, if you go into the conclave a pope, you come out a cardinal.
Yes.
And that is true. Case in point, you just mentioned it, Cardinal Bergoglio being whatever it was, 15th or 18th in a list of these kinds of predictions. However, some of the people you mentioned were certainly, and not only to Pope Francis, but to the whole church, someone that people have been talking about, watching how they have risen in their jobs, someone like Cardinal Tagle, for example.
You know, Francis was the first Latin American pope. What are the possibilities of firsts this time around? Do you believe we will see a pope from Africa, from Asia?
I think it is absolutely possible. It is according to what the electors choose to see as a priority. But I think that when the doors are closed, as they have been somewhat in these days of study and getting to know one another, these past days, that while the church was mourning for 9 days the passing of Pope Francis, the cardinals were really also meeting to get to know one another and listen. What are the things that need to be taken care of in the world? If one of those people, like Cardinal Turkson or Cardinal Tagle, fit where they think the church needs to be, then I think that it's not where they come from. It'll be who they are, their personality, their gifts, their talents, and not just whether it's a first.
Much has been made of who is conservative, who is liberal ahead of the conclave. What direction do you see the church heading in?
Oh, boy. Some of these terms fit so beautifully in other aspects of our life, like politics, for example, or we as Americans. They don't fit. Everyone, I think, needs to remember that at the very root, every cardinal is a priest who had very similar training, normally very similar upbringing, whether you were from the streets of Manila or Ghana, West Africa, or here in New York, my own training. I know what they studied. I know where we came from. So those terms don't always fit neatly. For example, I mentioned this afternoon in another interview, Pope Francis would be seen and given these terms progressive, liberal, and yes, some of the things might look that way from our other perspective. But this is also the man who comes home from a long trip, and what does he do? He immediately goes to the Church of St. Mary Major with a bouquet of flowers to do what devoted young people, children would do. They go home to the mother and say their prayers. Believe me, that is not progressive and liberal. It keeps people on their toes. Pope Francis is a good, strong priest in the way that we all know, and yet he's also the priest that could say, who am I to judge, to some of the cutting edge issues right now. So personally, I stay away from those titles.
I hear that.
I don't think they fit a priest, let alone a bishop, a cardinal, or a pope.
Can I tell you what no one is talking about in terms of a possibility for a first?
Please.
There are 10 cardinals from the United States
Yes.
set to participate in the conclave. No one's talking about an American becoming pontiff. Is there just no chance for this year? And why?
We all have our hopes. I don't exactly know why. A part of me, I'm an Italian American and I'm an immigrant son. So part of me thinks that our capitalist democratic system doesn't fit so neatly into the church, at least the European church that has been, even though we love our cardinals. Who's more popular than Cardinal Timothy Dolan? We love him. And he's smart, legitimately degreed.
But you don't think he has a chance? No chance for Dolan.
I don't see it. I don't see this 132 cardinals electing him, loving him, yes, wanting to listen to him, eat with him. Thank God he's a cardinal in the church, yes, but Pope, I don't think so.
Interesting. Could Trump become Pope? He has expressed interest. There is no rule it has to be a cardinal. You're laughing.
Well, I think we'd have to see him in what we call the OCIA, the Order of Christian Initiation of Adults.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.